Hello, Sophie, and welcome. It's so lovely to get the opportunity to have a connect with you, and really want to talk to our listeners about what you do, where you've come from, and what a difference you can make to people's lives. So, when you meet, what's your elevator speech when you speak to somebody? Because there's so many different modalities to what you do. So, if we meet in an elevator, tell me what you tell that person what you do.
Great question, Jo. Great to be here. So I think I would talk potentially about the life-changing power of breathwork.
Yeah.
So real focus, obviously there's a number of different modalities, but I work with people to support them to come home to themselves, come home to their bodies, to feel more energized, more inspired, and more connected to life, healthier, more vital, and just to thrive is my essence, kind of moving out of that survival, that contraction that so many people live in, into that expanded place.
And you often refer to the, or use the word, and it's on your website, mentor, don't you? Like well-being, mentor. And I love that word because in so many different jobs, professions, area of life, we look to a mentor, whether that's a paid person that's like a business mentor or a life coach, that person that we can really work with in a really dynamic relationship. And I think that's such a good word to sort of help people to understand what role you can play in their lives, in their journeys moving forward. So can you tell our listeners a little bit about what took you into breathwork? Because you've got a very personal journey. And I think our personal journeys is what makes us so passionate about what it is that we do. So do you mind sharing a little bit about your personal journey?
Yeah, of course. So all the years ago, about 9 years ago now, I was 23. I'd recently graduated. I studied journalism, which really, I think that we connect the dots when we look backwards. And the journalism degree was really, it connects to all of the knowledge and all of the different modalities that I've kind of trained in, seeking all that information and kind of condensing it. But I just graduated. I had been making a documentary in Colombia, came back from Colombia, cut a long story short, was feeling very tired and was diagnosed with lymphoma. So went through 6 months of chemotherapy for that and lots of healing and exploring for myself and learning a lot about the world of integrative medicine. Felt very disempowered, was told the classic thing, nothing you can do, all a lottery, keep doing what you're doing. I, at that point, was asthmatic. I'd been asthmatic since I was 9. No one ever said, how are you breathing? Or asked that. I would go for the breathing checkups and it would just be, let's give you a stronger salbutamol or a stronger steroid or things like that. And no one ever looked at the kind of functional breath. And when I came across breathwork and my kind of healing path, the years after cancer, it was a game changer. Everything shifted. And I don't have asthma anymore. I don't have any of those things. So, but it was a kind of process of starting out with meditation, looking at my gut health, looking at nutrition. And I think we all have different modalities and they all are supportive for our overall puzzle, but we all have modalities that really connect to us. And so the breath was a huge one because I'd spent many years up until the cancer diagnosis not being able to breathe. I would have nights kind of be wheezing and struggling. And we know that huge connection of oxygen levels and cancer and illness in general, just having higher oxygen levels can support us in so many ways. So yeah, that's the kind of personal connection. And then since then, for 6 or 7 years, I've been coaching people who have been through cancer or going through cancer, and also other people who are going through stressful times or chronic illness or something that's really been a kind of turning point for them in their lives.
And I think that's so powerful. And interestingly, I was a fellow asthmatic, constantly pumping inhalers in my 20s. I don't use a single inhaler now. My problem was I had a functional breathing problem. And I'm not saying anybody who's an asthmatic to chuck their inhalers away, but actually I, like you, had to learn to breathe for my lungs. And it was something I wasn't doing. But it's something maybe not at the level of asthma or wheezing, but actually how often are people sitting, not in a full-blown panic attack, hyperventilation, but really sitting, only using a third of their lungs? Exactly. And I catch myself every day, because I'm a big talker. I can say lots of words per minute. I'm quite famous for how many words I can fit in per minute. But actually, when people are in that really sort of stressed position, whether that's stress of a diagnosis, stress of the busy world that we live in, trying to balance children and work and demands and deadlines and answering emails, and actually find themselves just using that top third of their lungs, and actually forgetting that the lungs go a really deep way down. And actually, I'm sure I'm not the only body that catches themselves back in that kind of, yeah, not hyperventilation, but not really true functional breathing. Mm-hmm. I guess the difference is I'm aware of it. So then when I'm in between my talk, I then go back into restore. And yet so few people know or dedicate the time to that restorative breath work. So you've mentioned cancer, something we both feel really strongly about, and something that we both share a lot of clients with a diagnosis, but it isn't just cancer. Or maybe it's something that's happening that could lead to a disease in the future. How many people out there are stressed? And sadly, I'm going to argue that most people from a very young age, children included, are in this state of hypervigilance most of their waking moments, aren't they?
Totally. And the first thing we change and we experience stress, we feel that tightness, is the way that we breathe. So some people say, oh, I don't need breath work, but actually everyone breathes, and everyone, like you said, the majority of people before they come to a session only use a third of their lung capacity, and you're getting 90% of your energy from oxygen. But also when we think about even the detoxification process of that exhale and all of the different benefits, and anything that we can do to feel more grounded and centered and to have more resilience is going to be huge.
And again, that resilience, that's so important in modern day living. And I think having experienced the world of COVID and how we all had to become more resilient has really taught so many of us that didn't necessarily connect with that word resilience to go, no, actually, we all need to be working on that one as well, don't we?
100%. Yeah.
So how do you work? Because most people would think of breath work that me and you need to be in the same room, so that limits us to having to live in the same area. But that isn't the case for your work with your clients, is it?
No, that's interesting, because obviously there is a energy exchange when you're in the same place. And when COVID happened, I had to start working online, and I thought it would never work. And actually, it's just as effective, if not better. And I say that because people are in their own safe place. They might feel safer to release. A lot of the guidance that I do in a session, I'm guiding with my voice, and we're doing a breathwork journey, and the guidance is self-massage. So actually, it's an opportunity for you to massage yourself and reconnect to your body. And for me, the work is always about empowering people to really have that own personal practice and to feel like they have the tools to do this without me after a few sessions. And so if they're self-massaging and really having that connection, then it's really empowering. It's you realize that actually you have more control than you think, and this is your body. You're kind of guiding that path. So I think a lot of people that I've worked with in person have said it's just as effective online. And there's still that transference. The energy's still there. There's still the connection.
Yeah, I love that. I actually love that, because I was very similar to you. I didn't know if it would work as well. And actually, it does. It works because there's less time demand on the individual, meaning they've got more time to dedicate to that practice, i.e. they haven't got to spend an hour traveling each way. They're not in an unfamiliar environment that feels as though they can't be comfortable, and they can let everything out. And I love that. I mean, my visualization right now is my toolkit. Yeah. So you're giving people new tools to put in their toolkit, but that toolkit they can carry with them every day. So whether that is they're at work and they've got a few minutes between meetings and they can do 5 minutes of breath work or 3 minutes of self-massage, or they're going to pick their children up from school and they've parked in the parking lot 3 minutes early to secure a parking space, and they can dedicate that time to breath work or self-care work. So actually then the argument is we've all got time to put 100%, that practice in.
100%. And I'm all about those little micro snacks that we get, because it doesn't, as you know, it only takes a couple of minutes of slowing down your breath to shift your physiology. Yeah. And there's the research around that double inhale, long exhale, that actually is just as effective as a few minutes of meditation, just taking a few of those breaths. So it really is such a shift.
So who shouldn't do this, Sophie? Who does this not meet?
I think everyone would benefit from it.
Yeah.
Everyone. And I change and adapt my tools to the people that I work with. So some people need more down regulating, a lot of us do, and other people, maybe if they've got anger or they've got some emotions that want to come up to be released, it needs to be a little bit more stimulating. So it's breathwork, but it's trauma informed in that I work with the nervous system and we kind of gently find a way for people to start releasing. So it's a step-by-step practice and very somatic. So a lot of the work that we might do when we're in the health space is quite head-based. And for me, it's about kind of connecting to the sensations in your body. How does this feel? Sometimes people can't describe how things feel or the emotion and these things.
And from a functional medicine point of view, we always say we need to work with mind, body, and spirit. And this is where these two modalities gel so beautifully together, because actually so many of our clients, they're doing their body work, they're changing their diet, they're taking their supplements. But and I'm sure you'll agree with me, I get people who will invest a large sum of money in functional medicine and they go, Jo, I've done it all. I've changed the diet. I've taken my supplement regime. I've dedicated everything to it. And I go, you done your breathing? Oh no, Jo.
Yeah.
Oh no, Jo, I haven't got time to breathe. And it's like the simplest, the one that costs the least seems to cause the biggest challenges to people. And whether that is people don't fully understand the benefits, or whether that is people don't feel they've got the time to do it. But I think that's what you're saying is the time doesn't have to be big chunks. The time can be small incremental drips in that bucket of self-care, can't they?
100%. And I did all the actions. I did the supplements, I did the nutrition, all the doings. And this is that shift of actually being. And we know that we heal in that place of rest. But that seems so difficult because we feel we want to do all the things that are the action, because it's kind of giving us this feeling of I'm doing something. And I always say, well, how long are you spending just being or softening or relaxing? And our bodies heal in that place of calm, which is why that slowing down is key. I think you said it's a combination of knowing the benefits and also maybe sometimes people don't know how to switch off or relax. They're a bit afraid of it. It feels a bit of an edge, maybe, just to slow down.
And I think in this day and age with mobile phones, that's all about constantly being contactable and constantly using every minute to be productive. And there's so much, so many podcasts out there. There's so many books out there. There's so many business coaches out there that's all about being so productive that actually we don't get taught to just be. And in fact, we can often be accused of, well, if you're just being, you're being lazy, or you're not using your time effectively. And I know as a type A, I've had to work a lot in acceptance and of just being. And that's not that nobody else has said I can't just be. That's me telling me that I don't think that that's a good use of my time. And I think just as much as teaching people about breath work, the teaching people and giving people permission is actually one of the biggest lessons, isn't it?
100%. Yeah. Yeah.
And I was sometimes back to that question of who isn't this for? Often I might say it's the people who think it's not for them that actually need it the most, because it's those people who haven't given themselves permission to just be that need it more than anybody else.
Absolutely. And I've had people who say, I can't meditate, I can't do these things, my mind's too busy. And when you bring in the breathwork element, it's something to focus on. And the shifts are huge. I've had, a lot of people say I was really skeptical before this session, and they start to feel the tingling, they feel the sensations, they feel the difference in their energy levels, they witness the changes in their sleep. A lot of the time I have people who say I never really sleep, and they have a really deep sleep after a session. And it's so all of those shifts of seeing the changes are really, really huge as well. And when we slow down, we can listen more, is what I always say. When the mind is quiet, the spirit is loud. So if there's anything that we're trying to look for guidance with or inspiration, that comes when we slow down. Usually we're kind of pushing to try and get the next answer or solution, and that comes in that quiet.
And I think this is where working with you as a one-to-one differs so much to an online app that people might have even paid subscriptions to, but never done because they can't empty their mind, or they're so hung up on getting a strike of days after days after days that that's the purpose of their meditation versus the actual gain from the meditation. And I have heard that in people. I do it so that I can get a run of I've done it every day. I don't know if you've ever heard that, but I certainly have heard that one. But she says, but I'm not getting any benefit from it. I just like to get the tick, say I've done 37 days in a row without missing a day. So as a functional medicine practitioner, it's so important for me to get my clients to learn the tools and learn them what's right for them, which is why here at Embrace Nutrition, we recommend Sophie. Sophie is a huge area of expertise to this area of lifestyle medicine that I think if everybody did a session with her, the world would be a better place. No pressure, Sophie, on that one whatsoever.
Thank you, Jo. And
So,
also with the app, when we're doing a session, I'm really looking at how you're breathing, what's different for you, what changes when we say certain things, how does your body move? It's all of the stuff. It's very kind of focused. So you get personalized visualizations. We'll talk about kind of past experiences, any trauma, any challenges, and it all comes up in the breath. So it is a really supportive one.
So that's where, again, it's that individualized, because no book, no app, no online program can work with you, the individual, and understand your unique traumas, medical history, the bigger picture that's made you who you are today, made the diagnosis where you are today. And it's about changing that trajectory of that journey, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Sophie. I know our listeners want to hear more from you, want to get to know you, because I talk about you so often, and it's lovely for them to get to meet you before they come and book a one-to-one session. So we will link through to Sophie's website, link through to how to book your appointment with her. Even if you said, I'm just going to go away and do a couple of sessions with her, I think you will find those sessions invaluable for what you can use moving forward today and every days of the future. And whether your diagnosis is cancer, whether it's a stress-induced illness, whether it's a dysfunctional breathing like asthma or an apnea, every one of us would benefit from focusing on managing our stress, managing our breath work, but also there's that little bit of working with a one-to-one, the accountability, I think is also really, really, really beneficial. Absolutely. So thank you once again, Sophie, and thank you to all of our listeners, and please do follow this through and book your session with Sophie.
Thank you, Jo.